That's right. What's going on, everyone? And welcome back to another episode of Bridging the Gap here on the Jersey First TV network. As always, I'm AJ Malillo.
And I'm Stephen Rambola.
And you can catch Bridging the Gap anytime on jerseyfirst.org, where you can also sign up for the pledge and sign up for our newsletter. You can also check us out on YouTube. You hit that little notification bell, that subscribe button, where you get Bridging the Gap. You get real talk with Fernando, and you get the Nader narrative. You can also check us out on demand anytime on onnj.com. But Stephen, another week is in the books, and how was it? How is school going? You're making your way through semester 2. So what's up?
It's exactly what we're doing, man. It's been off to a good start. This week has been a lot of fun. We were just talking off air. I had my first ever. Now, granted, I didn't put forward any legal argument. However, I had my first oral advocacy presentation today. I had to take up Big Sugar versus Big Chocolate. So I represented the sugar candies and why they are superior to chocolate candies. And it's safe to say that I absolutely smoked it, blew it out of the water. I think it's a little bit unfair.
It's safe to say it's also expected, right? Like nobody expects anything else.
That's the thing. Well, we don't expect anything else because you and I have been doing this for a long time. But I'm not sure how many of my classmates know exactly how extensive my public speaking endeavors have been throughout, undergraduate, grad school, anything in between. You and I have had some community events that we've spoken at together in front of pretty large audiences. So it was nice to get up there, and I'm reminded. And I think this is a good perspective. And I was talking to one of my classmates about this actually. For anybody who listens to this, whether you're in school or not, I think public speaking is one of those skills that at some point in life, you're going to have to get in front of a group of people and talk about something that you either A, want to talk about, or B, don't want to talk about, but you have to talk about. And I think the best advice I can give people is it's like, for me, it's like going to the gym. It's a skill. It's a practice. It's something that the more you do it, the easier it gets. And there's levels to it. Not everybody's ready to stand up and, go out and give a TED talk with no notes. But if you had to get up in front of a room and you had your note cards or you had a PowerPoint, like there's levels to it. And I would say it's one of the greatest skills that somebody can have. I think it's, transcends jobs and occupations and all of those things. Everybody needs the ability to get in front of their peers and be able to speak. So it was nice. And as you said, I went in, I killed it, blew it out of the water, which is always a gratifying feeling. And I hope that, at the end of the semester, we have to give legitimate legal oral arguments against a classmate. So I hope that I struck a little bit of fear into the hearts of my law school comrades. I want to be a formidable counsel. I want that reputation before I'm even an attorney. This way, once I pass the bar, it's even more bona fide. So other than that, it's been good. I've really been enjoying the materials. My professor's been awesome. And I'm just excited to be in the routine, back to doing it. And I got my first quiz coming up tomorrow. So head's been in the books. And when we're done here, head is going to continue to be in the books. So
I understand. I love it. Sounds great. I'm sure the name, when it pops up on who you're going to go against for this oral argument, is going to strike fear in whomever that you're going against, and rightfully so. I mean, it's all in good fun. It's for a grade, I'm sure, at the end of the day. But at the same time, it's all in good fun, and whoever you're going against, I'm sure, is going to do a bang up job. But it's good to put a little bit of fear, be the person that you don't want to see on the other side of that file. And not because, for some bad reason, like you're a jerk or you're hard to work with, but because they know that it's going to be a tough thing to win. And I think that's what you want. And I'll say this, I know from my experience, I like it when I see that name on the other side and it's like, oh, that person's going to be good. That means I got to be on top of my game, because they're going to be on top of their game. So it makes me better. It makes them better, makes you better. So I think it's a good thing. You want to have a little bit of that cachet going in.
That's exactly it. And not for nothing, we're in this to become attorneys, right? And the justice system is, and I know you're familiar with this word, but it's adversarial. So it's like we're all working together, we're all learning the same thing, but at the end of the day, no matter what courtroom you walk into, there's a plaintiff and a defendant. You know what I mean? And then that is how this system exists. And so you have to have this friendly debate. And I think for me, the coolest thing was throughout this process of the semester, it's going to be an opportunity to learn, obviously, like techniques, strategies, all those things when it comes to oral advocacy. But I also am excited to learn things from my peers that I don't know, or pick up some techniques, or maybe somebody has some great body language and I take some cues. Like we're all there to sharpen each other's knives essentially, and just kind of be the best that we all can be together. I think coming into it, that approach is the best thing, because at that classroom, sure, it's adversarial, but when we all walk across that stage, we're all attorneys representing the same institution. So I want us all to be the people that when we step into court, they're like, oh, they're from this school, those guys got good attorneys.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And I think one thing for this stage that is really helpful for you, and for me while I'm at school, is figuring out what kind of attorney works for you. Right? Some people are brash; they're going to come after somebody, and that works for them. Other people are not that way. They're very quiet, more soft-spoken, more laid back in the courtroom. Some people are theatrical. Like I'm a theatrical guy. I've always been theatrical. And it plays well for me when I get up in front of a crowd of people to be a little bit more theatrical. I don't think it would play well for somebody like me to like have this laid back, nonchalant presence, because that's just not who I am. I think for someone like you're a little bit less theatrical, but you're a presence. Like you're a large presence physically. Using your body is
yes.
something that you have an advantage over me. I'm not going to physically intimidate anybody. But like I'm not. I'm 5'4", 450 pounds. I'm not going to physically intimidate anybody. But I can weave a compelling narrative and story. You can stand up and you can be a presence. And I think that figuring those types of things out is what the classroom should be at this point.
100%. And then the last thing I'll say about that too, and what I think is so brilliant about this particular type of school that we're in, is you learn, throughout your experiences, that the things that maybe were things that you saw as roadblocks in your life at some point, there's always a way to make it a strength. You know what I mean? And so exactly what you said, like if you and I were to stand as opposing counsel, I'm 6'1", 220 pounds, and you said you're what, 5'4", about 140,
Yeah,
right? So
150.
so we are two it's like twins, like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito.
Danny DeVito.
Yeah, but like you said, we both have skills innate to us to take those strengths and build upon them, and then find the weaknesses that we might have and build upon those. And so it's really cool because you develop a sense of individuality. And I would encourage anybody, regardless of if you want to be an attorney, just a great message for life. Like your skills, your strengths, and your weaknesses can combine to make a really brilliant product that is you, the individual, and how you present and carry yourself. And speaking of presenting and carrying yourselves, beautiful suit, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. I gotta do a shout out to a local business, Jersey business. Chasmataz, former wearer of Tom's River. Steve over there, he's great at what he does. He's one of the best in the business, if not the best in the business. So I do have to give a quick small business, local business shout out to a great Jersey business, Chasmataz, former wearer in Tom's River. If you're from the Tom's River area, that's where like everybody goes to get their prom tuxes and all of that type of stuff. They're the best over there. I highly recommend it. I got this suit for my birthday, nice and tailored. I got this tie for Christmas. The whole getup was from the holidays, but yeah, a big shout out to Chazataz, former wearer of Tom's River. They're great at what they do over there, 100%. But yeah, I'm the reason I'm in the whole getup is because I was over at my internship all morning, so I was in the courthouse, so in the courtroom all day today, just sitting watching some pretty interesting stuff. We had a pro se defendant that was over there, so that was a pretty
Ooh.
fun and interesting. For those that don't know, that means she represented herself. She was a sovereign citizen. So those are always a good time and a lot of fun. But yeah, we just had watching some bail stuff and some warrants and whatnot. It's a good time over at the courthouse, and soon enough, I'll be able to like do some questioning, do some arguing myself in real life court, which will be exciting, nerve wracking, but I think it'll be a good time. I think I'm gonna have a lot of fun with it.
That's what this is all for, man. That's like
That's right.
the next progression, you know? That's what we dream of, at least me.
That's no, completely true. Completely true. I'm certified, so, like, everyone's like, "Oh, he's a hot shot," because 'cause I've been in the same office for, like, since the summer, so they're all, pulling yanking my chain a little bit like, "Ah, hot shot over here, certified. Look at him walking around." But it's a good time. It's a good time.
Now, that is also something to be proud of. Absolutely
Yeah,
something to be proud of.
for sure, and soon enough, you'll be there in about a year. You'll be able to get certified yourself, so you'll be able to make these in court, in real life arguments.
I can't wait. I cannot wait.
But look, we got a couple stories to get to because Steve and I got to run. We got class and books to attend to. So we got two stories to talk about today. And I think, what do you say, Steve? Let's start with a story that we've kind of been pushing along this entire time. We've been talking about this for months and months. So if you guys
Borderline years,
remember,
I think.
Probably close to years at this point. If you guys remember, it was at the end of 2023, we talked about how the offshore wind farm projects fell through. The company that was supposed to be doing these projects pulled out, um, that was Orsted, and it had fallen through. It looked like it wasn't going to happen, but Phil Murphy said, "Don't worry, we're still going to make this happen," even though a lot of the people don't want it to happen. He needs it for his resume, so he's going to keep on fighting and keep pushing. Um, so anyway, Phil Murphy has come to agree with two newly approved offshore wind projects. The projects are from the Leading Light Wind and Attentive Energy 2 projects, and they were approved by New Jersey's Board of Public Utilities at a meeting on Wednesday morning. This was the third round of solicitations for the wind projects since last March. And these projects will be off of the coast on federal waters in Ocean County, Steve. A county you and I are quite familiar with. They will hopefully combine to generate about 3,742 megawatts of electricity, which would power 1.8 million homes when fully operational. Murphy's goal is to reach 11,000 megawatts by 2040. These would be off of the coast in Ocean County, like I had just said. So you're talking about building these off the coast of Seaside Heights. It would be about 42 miles offshore, and those would be expected to be operational by 2031. And the other one will be built off of the other project will be done off of the coast of Long Beach Island, for about 40 miles off the coast, and that's supposed to generate 2,400 megawatts of electricity. So one thing that when Ørsted was the leading company for this project was that they were an offshore company, literally like off of the shores of the United States from Europe. They were a European company. Leading the one company, Leading Light, right? Yeah, that's correct.
Yep.
Double checking the name. Yeah, Leading Light is a Chicago-based company. So, and I know they do a lot of projects in New York as well. So it is a U.S. company. So at least they have that going for it. The other company or project, so to speak, Attentive Energy 2, is actually a conglomeration. It's a project with two larger companies, both of which are big multinational corporations. So the second part of the project still has that funny little issue of foreign investment that was a problem with Ørsted. But look, Phil Murphy has led the charge on this. This is something that he wants to be part of his legacy, and it is looking like at the very end of his term, he's going to be able to get it done. So, Steve, we've talked about this a lot. We've talked about these offshore wind farms. Now we know that these projects are directly off the coast of your hometown. And so talk to me. How are you feeling? We know some of the problems. We've talked about them with the whales, with the birds, with the just eyesores in general. But what are you thinking?
Yeah, yeah. So when we were going through this, I read Seaside Heights, and it was one of those feelings like when you're at the top of a roller coaster and you just crest over, and then like everything drops. That's exactly how I felt. Solely because, again, I don't want to perpetuate murky claims, but everything that you've just addressed, right, with regard to the spike in marine animal life death that's occurred since these projects, because the Orsted projects were beginning development, they were doing testing, they were using sonar to map the ground, find the places where these structures could be built, all those things. And in that process, which wasn't even the actual like erection of these facilities, we were experiencing these adverse effects. And my biggest issue with all of this is whether or not this surveying and the actual construction of these turbines in the ocean contributes to the death of these animals is really, like I said, still kind of murky. There's some people that say yes, there's some people that say no. We don't have a clear and definitive answer on it. What we do, however, have a clear and definitive position on is a lot of these coastal communities, Seaside Heights included. I know there was a big rally many months ago in Point Pleasant, which is right up the road. And I suspect that this is going to be happening in LBI as well. The people that live on these barrier islands, where I was born and raised my entire life, do not want this. And sure, the argument can be made, at least for these projects, they're 42 miles off the coast. I don't know how much of an eyesore something that's 42 miles away would be. If I'm being frank with you, I think it might be more than the eye can perceive, unless these structures are, absolutely enormous. But the point remains, what you do off of our coast inevitably will affect things that happen on the coast. And when we're talking about building these structures, what jumps to my mind, just as somebody who's lived in this kind of community my entire life, is we're going to be talking about sand displacement. We're going to be talking about large travel and trafficking of, cargo materials. And there's going to be there might be a lot of job creation and opportunities for employment, which are all great for the economic stimulus. But let's talk about what they're going to actually need to do to the ocean floor. Is it going to displace any of the sand? And when we're talking about all these things, again, 42 miles is quite the distance. But when you start artificially manipulating, the flow of this ocean, where debris settles, how currents move in order to put these structures, I think we have to be aware of how this could potentially affect those communities that reside directly on the shoreline. My home is visually a mere 5 minutes off of the actual coast of New Jersey. So we have a vested interest in making sure that this construction doesn't affect the way that the ocean interacts with these communities right along the border. We have a vested interest in making sure that there is actually no harm going on to the marine life in the area. We don't want to continue to have whales and dolphins and turtles and these mass, deaths and migrations of birds showing up on our shores. It not only is it an eyesore, but let's be honest, it's a public health concern. And so there's just so many things that we really need to get under control, understand the outcomes and what all this is going to cause. And unfortunately, Murphy has proven again that he is just relentless in his pursuit of retaining the moniker of America's greenest governor. And he's setting initiatives that are supposed to be met in 2 decades when he's about to be out of office in less than 2 years. So I don't really see this as the issue that he needs to pick up and he needs to get going right now. If it was, again, at the beginning of his tenure, first term, this is something you can work on for 8 years, that's fine. I think that this project and offshore wind generally is a huge investment of money and time. It's going to stimulate a lot of people's opinions. It's going to affect a lot of communities. And to just continue to push it down the throats of the people of New Jersey after the last company you were with pulled out for whatever reason, I think is really a gross misunderstanding of the conversation that needs to be had with the public before we go ahead and we just jump full steam ahead into a project this big. So I can admire the initiative to attempt to, work on renewable sources of energy. I can admire his initiative to make New Jersey a national leader on an issue like this. But it seems like there's not enough conversation with the public and the communities that these actions really, truly affect at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that Governor Murphy has this funny thing where he forgets what his job is, which is to which is to represent the people of New Jersey. He's not a hedge fund manager, big wig anymore. He's not a CEO of the state. No, he is the representative of the executive branch of the state of New Jersey. Okay. And so he's putting out an initiative, right, to put these wind farms, like you said, that are going to be there forever, presumably, and they're not going to be actually in effect for another 8 to 20 years, basically.
Yeah, I believe 2031.
2031 to 2040, right? In that range. So if you are representing the state of New Jersey and you're going to put things out off of the shores of Ocean County, New Jersey, where a large percentage of I won't say large, but a significant percentage of the people that you represent don't want it there. You can't do it. I think that our representatives, our government officials forget their job and their roles here. Your role isn't to just cram what you want down the throat of the people that you're supposed to be representing. You're supposed to be doing their bidding. And if the people of the community don't want that to be done for their community, you don't do it. And he has no repercussions because he's not going to be on the ballot. So it doesn't matter to him. He is just going to get done what he wants to get done, whatever he thinks is going to be the best thing for his legacy, because that's all he cares about at this point. We need somebody to be the governor of the state of New Jersey that starts to take into consideration what the people of the state of New Jersey want done. I think we all want clean air to breathe and clean water to drink and energy to light up the streets and our homes. I think we all want that. And I don't think any of us want, massive destruction to our ecosystem and climate. I don't think anybody's calling for that. But first of all, there's better sources of clean energy than wind that are available. And second of all, you are directly affecting, like you said, these communities, these shore communities, economically, and quite possibly you could be leading them to a physical ruination because we don't know the consequences of drudging up a bunch of sand in the middle of the ocean to throw up wind farms that are going to be producing a lot of sound and a lot of change of the currents. We don't know what's going to happen. So you might be actually putting the people that live on these barrier islands in physical danger, for all we know, because you're going to be producing thousands of megawatts of electricity from them. So you're expecting them to be quite large, and it's just so mind-boggling because these are the same people that are talking about how human beings are drastically affecting our climate and our ecosystems. And what do? They say, well, in order to fix that, let's throw these giant vibrating, spinning blades of death into the middle of the ocean to ruin an ecosystem. And it's mind-numbing because it doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe somebody could explain it to me. Like I'm five.
I don't believe that I'm capable of explaining the rationale, simply because I agree with everything that you said, and I think your characterization of them as spinning, vibrating blades of death should be plastered on every newspaper come tomorrow's publication, because this is a big issue, and this is something that again, we've been talking about for years. And what perturbs me the most about it, and you said this, Murphy has nothing to lose, and this is a project and a pursuit, and it's like a weird little pet project of his that just cannot die, no matter how hard it seems like it wants to die. Orsted pulled out. A company doesn't want to do this anymore. Maybe they heard the backlash. Maybe they were tired of the public ridicule for the support of this project,
Or they
like whatever it
noticed
might be.
that as soon as they started doing the work to try and put this down, a bunch of ocean mammals started washing up on the beaches of New Jersey, and that's just a coincidence that starts happening. Then the company sees all of this backlash. Is like, hold on, people don't like it when whales and dolphins and turtles start washing up on the beach, and we're getting bad publicity, so we're going to pull out of that.
That could very well be it. I think where this begins and ends for me is it doesn't seem like all of New Jersey is on board with this initiative. It's costly by way of money, by way of time, and not for nothing. He's been leading the New Jerseyans on for a very long time with these promises that the people on the other end of the deal continue to pull out from and negate. So if you have 2 years left in office, I would hope that Murphy wakes up tomorrow and says, I have 2 years left. I have to get all that I can get done for the people of New Jersey by their request, because they are the ones that elected me to this position, and it is their interests which I am here to promote and protect. And clearly, Governor Murphy, for the past few years, it has not been the case. And I doubt tomorrow or the day after or in 15 years, it will be the case that this is something that people want to happen in this state. So a wake-up call and a realigning and paying attention to what the constituents of your state want might be a better approach moving forward.
And also, Stephen, I just think I want to point this out about the Murphy administration from day one. And I feel like this is something that I said when he was running for governor and we were on the radio. And it's proven to be true. Every single one of Phil Murphy's initiatives from the moment he started running for governor, he was going to pass and not have to pay for, because they were all going to take effect in 10, 15, 20 years down the line. And guess what? By then, it's somebody else's problem. He gets the props of raising minimum wage, of putting out these wind farms, of whatever, letting people out of jail, right? And he doesn't have to deal with any of the consequences, because the consequences come down the line. They don't happen tomorrow. When you raise the minimum wage to $20 an hour, which, by the way, is not a living wage in the state of New Jersey, right? Like, let's all be serious. You're not going to raise a family off of $20 an hour in the state of New Jersey. It's far too expensive. But okay, so you raise the minimum wage to $20 an hour in the state of New Jersey, right? And then there's natural inflation that comes with that, natural layoffs that come with that, but you do it slowly over time. You slowly increase this. So then right at the time you get out of office, it hits that $20 an hour mark, and you can say, you're welcome, you leave, and then in 5 years, when there's mass layoffs, mass business, small business closing, and our economy is in ruin, don't matter. He's back in his house in Monmouth County in his multi-million-dollar home, minding his own business. Oh, these wind farms, oh, whatever, blah, 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 put them out. Yeah, greenest governor. And then by the time the actual project starts and we're going to see all of these problems that arise in the midst of doing this project, sayonara, gone, don't have to worry about it. You're welcome, bye. Every single initiative. It's the same thing. It's the same playbook.
You're exactly correct. And I think what I would want to highlight on top of that is it's fun. We're in New Jersey. We can poke on Phil Murphy. But I think that's largely the case for most politicians at almost all levels. And what it comes down to is, unfortunately, the people are too occupied with things happening in day-to-day life. You know, the inflation, which decreases the dollar and makes it harder to pay your bills, or, the healthcare problems that you have, or, the fact that you can't afford a home and you've been working your entire life, or you're old and you want to retire, but you can't afford to do that. So you got to work till you're 70. So the American people have a lot going on and a lot to deal with. And they forget that the people who pass these bills and tell us that they are good for us are the ones that need to take accountability when these things go wrong. And it's up to us. It is up to, people like AJ and I, who thankfully have a platform where we can come on and we can talk and we can discuss these issues at length. But for the constituents, wherever you are, your job in this democracy is to hold these people accountable and let them know you can't just raise the minimum wage to $20 and leave and not deal with the consequences, or at least you are not free from hearing me complain to you about the consequences. And that's what I wish we saw more of, is regular people and people with platforms taking the opportunity to call these politicians out for their ridiculous initiatives, for their very short-sighted way of thinking, and hold them accountable. And maybe if we do that, we'll get a new generation of politicians and leaders, hopefully in the state of New Jersey, that are accountable to the people that put them in office, that want to see real change, that are actual representatives of the community. Because that is, I think, the positive change forward. And maybe we could stop having discussions about, multi-million-dollar wind farms that are going to take up space 40 miles off the ocean in 20 years and start talking about the issues that that New Jerseyans care about today. The things that I just talked about, the fact that you can't afford, you said it yourself, you can't raise a family off a living wage of $20 an hour. New Jersey's far too expensive. Let's talk about taxes. Let's talk about education. We have plenty of things to talk about that are pressing and immediate right now. To be frank, I don't care about windmills in 20 years that are probably not going to get built anyway, because the last time you tried to do it, the company pulled out when everybody made it clear they didn't want it the first time. So why are we trying again?
Yeah, Steve, I couldn't have said it better myself. I completely agree with everything you said. But look, we were going to have another story, but I suppose we'll just tease that for next week, because we are really, we ran a little bit long today. We're out of time for that story. But, I do quickly want to give credit to where we got that wind farm story. That was NJ 1015. That they had the article up, and that's what we were reading from. But we did have another story about a Jersey county that was doing all they can to stop the violent crime epidemic that is plaguing not only our great state, but our great nation. And so we could talk about that maybe come next week. But unfortunately, Stephen, like all good things, this too must come to an end. And we are out of time on this week's episode of Bridging the Gap. But please tune in next week. You'll get more Bridging the Gap, and you can check out all of our past content over on YouTube. You can check us out on Spotify. You could check us out on NJ, and you can check out jerseyfirst.org. But for Jersey First TV and Bridging the Gap, I'm AJ Malillo.
I'm Stephen Rombolo.
We hope you have a wonderful week. We'll chat with you next week, everyone.